There are a lot of reasons why I like Panama as a place to incorporate your business compared to other so-called tax havens. Panama is perfect for a lot of us house hackers who are just starting out and sort of traveling as digital nomads that are maybe incorporated in our home country but don't have a lot of money or experience yet. You can actually go to Panama as a digital nomad and live there to save money. It would be worth it. Things are still relatively cheap depending on which part of the country you're in. But also, if you need a job, you have options because there's all kinds of businesses that have been in Panama forever. And in general, the infrastructure is there relative to other Latin American countries. So it's a Latin country, so obviously it's going to be fun. And if and when you're ready to start a business, you can take advantage of the fact that Panama runs on a territorial tax system, which means that you're only taxed on income generated in Panama. So you can start by living there temporarily, set up a bank account and incorporation, and then continue traveling around other countries and pay zero taxes in Panama. And that leads me to my next point, which is travel. Especially if you're in the Western Hemisphere, Panama is in the perfect location if you'd like to be flexible and travel. You're right at the connection between North and Central America and South America. So it's become a hub for a lot of really successful businesses and cultural movement. You get easy flight access or driving access if you really needed to drive there. It's not some remote island country, so you kind of always have both businesses and workers moving there, which makes for a relatively stable economy. Speaking of stable economies, Panama actually has a GDP growth rate that consistently outperforms other countries in this region. People from all walks of life are moving to Panama, regardless of their income level, because in Panama there is something for everybody. Cheap labor if you want it, skilled jobs that are well paying if you want it, and business and banking options if you want those. There are very poor people living in Panama and very rich people. Another thing I like about the business and banking options is that Panama has strong privacy and confidentiality laws for business owners and shareholders, but at the same time, they have a lot of banking options for foreigners, which makes it relatively easier for us US citizens who are usually prevented from opening a bank account in most well-known countries for banking. As someone who's just starting out in the offshore world, you actually do not want to be doing business in one of these very established financial hubs like UAE or Singapore or Switzerland, because they're going to make you jump through a lot of hoops, which will be very expensive and complicated, especially if you're a US citizen. They're going to make it really difficult for you to open a bank account. And I'm talking weeks or months of delays in approving your account, if they even approve you, and gigantic minimum deposits required. So Panama is still legit. They'll still make you jump through hoops for security and transparency, and they're still going to comply with Western reporting standards and extradition laws, but it's still new enough as a hub that at our level as house hackers, we're going to have an easier time getting our foot in the door in Panama than other like major financial hubs. Just don't break any laws in your home country, and Panama might be your next Switzerland. And now we're finally going to figure out how to do the incorporation. As a non-Panamanian citizen, you can incorporate a company tax-free in Panama through a process called Panama Private Interest Foundation, PPIF. Let's go through the steps on doing this, and keep in mind that you probably won't actually have to do any of this yourself because there are companies that will do it for you super cheap as a package deal. And my personal favorite is panamail.com, and they'll actually even help you with the banking and mailing address, which we will discuss in a few minutes. So the first step is to hire a registered agent in Panama. They can be an attorney, an accountant, or other authorized professional, and they typically charge between $1,000 to $2,000 US. The next step is to choose a unique name for the foundation. And next, you'll draft up the articles of incorporation, which are the legal documents that establish a foundation and outline its purpose, the governance structure, and other important details. The registered agent will help with all these things, and usually it costs between $1,000 and $2,000 US. Once the articles of incorporation are drafted, the registered agent will submit them to the public registry in Panama, and that usually costs around $250. After the foundation is registered, you have to apply for a tax exemption certificate. This certificate will exempt the foundation from paying taxes on any income earned outside of Panama, and that costs around $400 US. Again, your registered agent should take care of all of this, but I'm just telling you what it is so that you can make sure that they do it. Now let's talk about the bank account. Once you've finished incorporating your Panamanian business, you're going to open a Panama bank account, which will be best used for transferring funds to and from your other bank accounts in other countries. Most Panama banks require non-citizens to get a residency permit first, So if you can live in Panama for some of the year and do that, I'd highly recommend it, especially if you're already a citizen of another Latin country where a lot of those governments allow you to skip personal income taxes as long as you spend most of your year in another country. I've seen some Colombian citizens do this successfully. But anyway, if you can't physically live in Panama for any part of the year, that's okay too. You can get a virtual address with panamail.com. They're not paying me to say this, by the way. I just really like what they have to offer. So now let's talk about some of the easiest and cheapest Panama banks for non-residents. Our top 4 includes Multibank, Banismo, Global Bank, and Banco Nacional de Panama. To open a bank account, you will need to provide the following documents: your passport, your proof of address, it can be a utility bill or a lease agreement, a bank reference letter or business reference letter if opening a corporate account, and the source of funds documentation. So the passport is straightforward, your passport. Proof of address inside Panama isn't always necessary for a Panamanian bank account, but just keep in mind that it's going to be harder if neither you nor the business has an address in Panama. Personally, I'd recommend that you get a cheap virtual office as your proof of residency. My favorite virtual office, same as I said before, Panamail.com, they also offer virtual offices. So Panamail.com will give you a virtual office. They'll also give you a phone line, a virtual mailbox, a lease agreement, and you can even pay them in Bitcoin. I've used a similar service in the United States for years now. They have these virtual offices everywhere, and they're great because they save you a lot of bureaucratic hassle. And they scan your mail, they send it to your account right away. So that's really convenient to have. If you have a non-Panama address, a utility bill or a lease agreement from your home country might still be sufficient proof of address. Alternatively, some banks will require a notarized affidavit of address or a letter from a bank or attorney confirming your address. But yeah, I just try to keep things simple by just getting that cheap virtual office subscription. If you travel a lot, you're probably going to need one anyway. Some banks will have other additional requirements for non-residents, such as a higher minimum deposit or additional documentation. It won't be crazy expensive, usually between $500 to $1,000, but either way, you'll have to do your research and find the best options for your personal needs. For the bank reference letter, you'll just want a letter from your current or previous bank that confirms your identity, the account number, and maybe a bank statement, and confirmation that you're in good standing with them. A business reference letter is a letter issued by a professional contact, such as a client or a supplier who can vouch for your business and your reputation. The letter should confirm that you are a reputable business owner with a good track record and that you have the financial means to conduct business in Panama. Both bank and business reference letters should be issued on official company letterhead and include the contact information of the issuer, such as their name, title, and contact information. The letters should also be issued and dated by the issuer. Honestly, the amount of requirements will really depend on the bank in question, but as a general rule, and as we always like to say on this channel, the more people that are using that bank or that product, the more saturated it will be and the higher their requirements are going to be. That's just a rule of thumb. I know this sort of feels like a catch-22. They want you to be stable and make a lot of money in order to do business in their country, but you need to start somewhere in order to make money, right? And that's why you're going there to do business in the first place. So it's always frustrating when you're just starting out. But like we said earlier, I really like Panama because it's still sort of up and coming for big businesses. It's still unpopular and poo-pooed in a lot of circles because of a lot of the scandals that happened there in the past. So as long as you provide all the documentation that they ask from you, you're still not going to have to jump through as many hoops as you would have to jump in a more like established country for business. And now for the disclaimer. It's important to remember that tax laws and regulations vary by country and should be carefully researched before taking any action. Consulting with a tax attorney or an accountant can also provide valuable guidance in navigating tax laws and minimizing tax liability. So that's it. Happy incorporating, and let me know in the comments if you have any questions. If you can't even be thinking about a Panama business right now because you're still in survival mode, I wrote an entire book to get my younger self out of survival mode called House Hackers Anonymous. It's a 12-step program for my younger self. And it comes with a 12-step book, a 12-step course. On my website, you'll find other resources for my younger self and anybody that I think could benefit from it at househackersanonymous.com. I hope it helps. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel already, remember to do that now so you can see future videos. And if you're already a subscriber, see you in the next one.